Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, the show that gives you a virtual seat at the bar for the real conversations that happen between entrepreneurs. I'm interviewing all kinds of business owners, from those just a few years into freelancing to CEOs helming 9-figure companies. If you've ever worried that everyone else just seems to get it and you're missing something or messing things up, this show is for you. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and let's get to it. And welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is my new friend, Celi Arias. Say hi.
Hello.
Oh, I'm so excited for this one. The energy beforehand was starting to crackle. There was a little bit of feistiness. So tell us about what you do.
I'm glad to hear that. I am a growth strategist and a certified mindset coach.
Ooh.
So I've been in business for actually 30 years. Yes, true story. You're going to ask me how old I look. I know, but I can explain. And I've been in business coaching and consulting for a really long time. And a few years ago, I just kept seeing a theme of my clients getting stuck over and over and over again. And so I kind of went on a journey to I'm an engineer and a COO by trade. So I was like, how do I engineer that? How do I figure that out? What's that happening? What's that thing that's happening? I got really curious and I went on a journey and realized that your mind plays a really big part in whether the strategy is going to work or not, because you have to execute on the strategy. So then I added to my arsenal of business tools, I added mindset coaching.
Oh, that's fabulous. I think that's where so many of us get stuck and a lot of the impetus behind this show, because I was tired of hearing this kind of delusion, like some people just get it and some people don't. And, if you don't have my magic pill, then obviously you're going to be struggling in your business. Well, no, I mean, the magic pill is really getting right with your own head in between your own ears and knowing that even if something in front of you doesn't make sense right now, you can make it make sense through persistence and through resourcefulness. So that drives me nuts.
Yeah. I mean, that is you're preaching to the choir.
Yes, for sure.
But I like to be, I recognize that sometimes I'm very triggering. If you follow me on social media, I say things like, you don't need a funnel. You don't need a website. You don't need a new brand. You don't need a lot of these things. You don't need affiliate links. You don't need, I'm just seeing all that. You don't need the follower numbers. You don't need the likes. That is not how you build businesses. That's not how you create sales. But I do say this, and I teach this a lot. Unless you have a franchise, no cookie cutter solution is going to be the thing that's your business in the long run. Because a lot of people come to me and go, okay, I'm so tired. I've spent so much money on other coaches. So are you going to give me the thing? And I'm like, well, right there, we got to talk about what you just said. The words that just came out of your mouth. We got to talk about your thinking, because I wish there was a magic pill, but you're just looking for the next magic pill, because our industry and some people who are brilliant marketers have now trained your brain to believe that there's some magic pill out there.
Yes.
So am I one of the best business coaches out there? Absolutely. Will I build a strategy for you and build a business for you? Absolutely. Is it a magic pill? Hails no.
I love everything that you just said for multiple reasons. One, because you just so eloquently and pridefully owned the fact that you know your shit and you are amazing at what you do. And I think a lot of us, especially women, tend to downplay our own brilliance and the thing that we bring to the table that makes us so special. But no, own it. Take a page from Celi, imitate that right there until you feel confident in it. And then I take the same tactic with everybody that I coach, which is it all works. That's why there are so many people out there that are successfully selling their one thing, because all of them work. The thing that you're missing is that's what works for them, which means you're going to have to go through some sort of trial and error process and find what works for you, because all of it works, but it may not work for you. I will never cold call a person in my life. I hate it. I avoid it. I procrastinate on it. It is not for me. Does that mean it doesn't work? Absolutely not. There are plenty of people out there making a damn fine living doing cold calling, and they're good at it and they enjoy it. Good for them. Not for me. Fine.
Yeah. I mean, you just said so many things right there. I could go on if a whole, I'm going to like try to remember. Number one, yes. Thank you for noticing what I did there because I did it intentionally. I have been a student of Tracy Litt's mind magic work for years, and I'm certified under her. And it took me many, many years to even say, holy shit, I've been in business for 30 years. I have started companies, sold companies, closed 7-figure deals, fundraised for startups in 7 figures, been a CEO. I've done all the things. I did a lot of mindset work and inner work just to be able to say I'm one of the best in the industry. So I do that on purpose. Also because I do it in my programs. I have 2 programs, and one of them is called Roadmap to Millions, and it's just business fundamentals. And I said that in my program like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and all clients have access to me. That's also how I'm different. I don't believe in modules and you not getting personalized feedback and attention. It's just that's my jam. It's how I roll.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody messaged me and said, oh my God, you really triggered me by saying that you think you're one of the best coaches in the world. And I was like, great. I'm so glad I triggered you. Let's talk about it. I'm glad that was triggering for you. I wasn't because I still know that the triggering isn't about me. It's about her. And so we had this beautiful conversation. I was like, why were you triggered? And she's like, because I realized that I'm an expert chef and I don't talk about what I do, share it with people, boast about what I do. And I would have never, and I was like, yeah, okay, great. Step into my mastermind where we'll address all of that.
Yes.
So I do say certain things to, hi, warning, I will trigger you. Don't do it to be a jerk. I do it because sometimes when we get a little jarred out of the things we're being marketed and told over and over and over again, the jarring is just enough for your brain to go, wait a minute, that sounded different.
Yes.
Okay, wait. And sometimes all we need to do is, one of the first things we need to do is just get curious, right? So I do trigger you intentionally sometimes just to it's like how Tony Robbins says that he will throw in an F-bomb just to get people uncomfortable. It's kind of like, yeah, as a woman, entrepreneur who looks much younger than she is, I will say crazy shit like I've been building businesses for over 30 years and I'm one of the best.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy at all. I want that to become more of the norm, especially for female entrepreneurs, for people that identify as others, people who typically have been excluded from business for not looking like the traditional, guy in a suit success story, right? And there was something that you said interesting, like I'm taking all these notes and circling things, but you said something interesting about triggering that made me recall a previous conversation with another guest where she said, there's being honest and there's being a jerk, and honesty without empathy is just being mean. And so I love that you brought that up in terms of the triggering conversation, because I do think that intent counts for that. You want to trigger somebody because you want to shake them out of your comfort zone, and coming out of your comfort zone is just a uncomfortable experience, plain and simple. But you don't have to be a dick and talk down to somebody and destroy their self-confidence to trigger them into change, right? And I think that's a misconception that a lot of these, I have opinions on the kinds of business coaches that like to tear you down to build you up. But I think that you can make somebody uncomfortable with something, and that's really the impetus for all the positive change that happens. Nobody just goes, well, my life is going great and I love everything about it, let's blow shit up.
Yeah, you've made some really good points. And I think what I do is I use myself always as an example. So I never am going to trigger you by calling you out or making you feel bad about where you're at. I will always talk about either how good I'm doing or how bad I'm doing. And I will always talk about my mistakes and all of my errors, because my perfection, I'm a recovering perfectionist. Actually, I think I'm doing a pretty good job of being perfect. But in the past, I would have never talked about my failures. But the more content I make to really help people, and I'm a speaker, the more I've had to put together speaking engagements and presentations and slides, the more I realize is that my mistakes really made who I am. And really my mistakes are what's made me so good.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, yeah, let's talk about why I started a business when I was 10. Let's talk about that time I was homeless. Let's talk about like the business that I ran in my 20s and worked 7 days a week for 8 years.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, the reason I teach you the things I teach you and the way I teach you is because, oh my God, I do not want that for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I get better and better and better at using myself as an example.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I mean, like the prescriptive, like this works for me, so it'll work for everybody thing drives me nuts. But I don't think that's what you're doing here. I think you're talking about this is how we learn, by putting ourselves out there in all of our imperfect glory and figuring shit out as we go. I had a very visceral reaction to something like I've been dragging my feet for years working on a book because I think I faced the same pressure that a lot of first time authors. Yeah, 5 years. It's coming out this year. I am saying it publicly to hold my feet to the fire. Yes, like we're both over here cheering. But
you said it to me, so now what's going to happen is I'll be calling you and being like, "Hey,
where's that book?
How's that book?"
Well, it's all culminating in this great idea that literally just came together for me yesterday. I've been kind of throwing out to past podcast guests, like I turned 40 this year, and I think I want to be on like 40 stages, 40 podcasts, 40. Like I want to be out there in public in a bigger way than I have been by the time I turn 40. But then if I launch the book the week that I turn 40, like it could be this whole big event that I'm super excited by, and I'm tired of dragging my feet. But part of this process, of course, is like there's a beta reader portion. People who think that you think would be an ideal target market, they volunteer to read the book, they give you their notes. I had a very visceral negative reaction to one of the beta readers who told me that they stopped reading after the introduction because they disconnected at the story of me living out of my car during my early entrepreneurship days. And they were like, that shook my faith in you as a person and as a coach, and told me, I don't think that you can help me get to the next level. And I went, good. Then I'm not the person for you, because I'm going to live out there with my mistakes and show you that all of this is recoverable and all of this is figure outable. And you have never messed up as badly as you think that you have, especially if you are willing to step up and own it and do better. Like, no.
Yeah. And what's fascinating about that is, number one, you're clearly not living out of your car anymore.
Yeah.
So I would want to like be like, hey girl, how'd you do it? Number one, that's the kind of person I want to learn from. Okay. And number two, that says something about that person's the fear and beliefs and discomfort around any possibility of failure. And so that's the shame. And the shame. And they're already dealing with so much shame around entrepreneurship. And it's just a shame they didn't get past the intro, because that just shows you how stuck they are. Look, I just gave a speech a few days ago in person, and I'm a really passionate speaker, and I'm also really nerdy, and I like pop culture fun, educational, and I bring in neuroscience, and like, so I mix in like pop culture goofiness with like neuroscience stats and data, right? I practice, I present to people, they're like, this is amazing, this is hilarious. I get really great feedback. But on the app for this conference, somebody, instead of giving me 5 stars, gave me 4 stars. And I was like, what? It's like my brain just went, oh my God, like all the negative thoughts, all the self-doubt, all the stuff came up. And I was like, first of all, put in some, like, come give me feedback. Tell me, because there's no way to understand who knows what was going on for that person. Second of all, it is really hard to get up here on stage and speak to people in a room for an hour.
Wow.
Hour by myself.
Yeah.
You know, like that's hard. Give a girl 5 stars just for like doing it, you know? And then I got to like do my mindset work and let it go.
Yeah.
And I always say, I know that the way I teach and I say things that are not what all the other business coaches are saying. So you're going to be triggered. Maybe if I say, hey, that funnel's not going to make you $1 million, some people will be triggered by it. And so I also was like, well, Celi, you did say you're set out to kind of change the way people think about their businesses, which means you're going to rub some people the wrong way, which means you're going to get 4, 3, 2 stars sometimes from people. And that is part of your journey of accepting. And so I was like, cool, okay, whatever.
Yeah. People don't like being shaken out of that fantasy, out of that comfort zone. Like, I know I specialized in launches and like the big internet launches that turn into a big month-long hoopla with multiple joint venture partners. I've done launches like that. I burned out on launches like that. I know how they work. And I've had so many people come up to me as a consultant, be like, can you help me with this launch? And I would ask them a couple of key figures about their business. What is your list size? What is your product? Is it proven? Stuff like that. And I would basically tell them, you're not ready for this. This is something that is, a proven offer. You've got a back end strategy that you also know works. You've got these people and these connections that you can leverage. There are all these things that are in place behind the scenes that you don't necessarily see that make this multi-million-dollar launch in a week thing possible. And you don't have those things. That's not to say that you can't get those things, but doing this right now is a huge risk because all of these little dominoes aren't lined up to fall the way that you're anticipating they're going to fall. They don't like when you tell them, like, no, I can't make that fantasy come true unless we've got these assets that I can actually use to build that.
Right. That's a really beautiful thing that you're doing, though, by just saying that, because there are so many other people in our industry who would say, yeah, I'll build you that. Cost $50K.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Right.
And they know it's going to fail from the beginning.
They exist. I know they exist. There are people who will just be like, yeah, sure. I'll build you that. So at least by saying, no, you don't actually have the dominoes in place.
Yeah.
You're doing really honest business.
So to me, it's not just about the money, right? Because I can make as much money as I want to. I want the prestige. I want the results. I want the win, right? Like if I'm committing to something, I actually want this to go out there into the world and do some good. I want it to run. So I'm going to choose projects that I think have a high likelihood of winning. And I'm going to help you find a way to get to a win if we're not quite there yet. But I'm not going to take it just to take money. And maybe I do business differently from people in that regard. But no, it's not just about the money for me.
Well, I love that you said that, because as you were talking about this, I knew my answer. I knew in my head my answer, and I was like, oh, I know why I do it. And then you literally said it. No, I'm here for the results. Like, yes. I want you to get the results. I am a Latina. I was born in Argentina. I grew up with immigrant parents. I watched them work their asses off. I started my business when I was 10 because I really wanted to take ballet. And I knew that my then single mother wouldn't be able to afford it. I had the deep belief that you have to work really, really, really like white knuckle hard to make money and to succeed. And so what drives me is actually making that journey easier for people who are very serious about their business being their livelihood. Because it's possible. But what drives me isn't necessarily the money isn't the first thing that drives me. What drives me is when my clients text me and they're like, holy shit, this happened. I did that. I just upped my post on social media and people congratulated me for it and people signed up, or the truth is I live for that. And I think it comes from my childhood, my experiences, how I really white knuckled the first, I would say 37 years of my life. Right. Yeah. And had to find different ways. And so now that I've found different ways, I'm like, I need to help people. And I especially want to help Latinas, Latinos, women of color. I coach men too, because there are people in this world like myself who are wired to be entrepreneurs. And I don't know if you found this to be true, but in my journey, I found that I was constantly being guilted by the people around me for wanting to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Because I got a lot of, you're so smart. You should get a job. You're so smart. You should go build a career. You're so smart. You could climb the corporate ladder so easily. Why are you So I was carrying around, not only working really hard to make money, but I was also carrying around this deep-seated shame for even wanting to be an entrepreneur. That also makes it harder on yourself. So I am really here I demystify and break down business and make it super simple for people intentionally, because you can totally be an entrepreneur. You can. pay yourself a salary and feed your family and live the life you can. And it's not going to happen from all these like fast, quick fix, get rich quick solutions that you're being sold to. You're being sold to by marketers who are brilliant at marketing themselves. And they're not teaching you just business fundamentals.
Yeah.
So I'm super passionate about that.
I love everything that you just said, because I think like I've definitely experienced that guilt. You're too smart for this. You're too smart to be, especially during the early days when it was really a struggle. Like you can make any career that you want. This is the career that I want. Oh, but writers, when I was a writer, writers are struggling and musicians are struggling. I went on to create a reality, a living for myself that was more than anybody in my blue collar family had ever created, doing those things that I wanted to do. And so to me, like one aspect of it is that like the desire to do something different than people have told you, that rebellion against the corporate thing. And then another thing for me was just not fitting into the way corporate life is wired at all. I got late stage ADHD diagnosis. They can't see the video right now, but I also have visible piercings that I've had since my early 20s. I've got these big, colorful tattoos that I don't like covering up. And I remember getting these really tiny ones when I was early 20s, and my dad going, damn, I wish you hadn't done that. Like, you're going to have a hard time getting a job. You know what these tattoos do? First of all, most people don't even realize these are tattoos. They think I'm wearing a watch or a bracelet, these little ones around my wrist. But then when they realize they're words, they go, ooh, what does that mean? And I get to tell them about these 4 pillars that I have in my life, which are hope, respect, truth, and honor, and why I have them tattooed on me and why they're facing me instead of the people that I'm talking to. And like, it starts this whole conversation, and all of that stemmed from me going, no, I refuse. I refuse to blend in. I refuse to do what somebody else tells me to do in order to be professional and be taken seriously. And has that been easy? Like, did I just stand up for myself once? No, this is a constant fight that I've chosen for myself. It would be a hell of a lot easier if I chose to hide and fit in. But I don't. I can't. I won't.
It would be easier maybe on the outside, but I think on the inside, you would be dying inside. There'd be a part of you would be constantly throwing water on the flame of your soul, right?
Yes. Oh,
the thing that lights you up and drives you, you would just be pouring water on it all the time. And I think creatives and creators and entrepreneurs, we all kind of know what that feels like, because we've all tried it. I definitely, when I closed my clothing brand, I definitely went and got a job because I was exhausted and everybody pushing me to. And I went into corporate brand partnerships and sales. I had fuchsia hair at the time. And managed to get hired, and then felt the pressure to make it red and not fuchsia. And I did that out of just shame, guilt, feelings of failure, listening to all the voices. And I was so miserable at that job. And I was good at it. That's the crazy thing, is I closed some amazing deals, did some amazing projects with really impressive fashion brands. Because my background came from fashion manufacturing and supply chain, I was able to build a product and a supply chain project for Supreme, for example.
Love it.
So it's like super successful. And I was like coming home and crying every night because the environment, the colleagues, were such assholes.
Yeah.
The environment was so just horrible. Like Devil Wears Prada level, like backstabbing, just shittiness. And so here in the world around me, people were like, good job, you got a salary and you got a corporate job, and look at you like having to dress up to go to work, and look at you closing those deals. And I was like dying inside. So
I'm glad you brought up the Devil Wears Prada, because that's like one of my favorite, like, it's not really even a joy to watch. I kind of watch it every once in a while to remind myself that that's not something I ever want to go back to. But there's that line from Stanley Tucci where he talks about, like, call me when your life blows up. Then you'll know it's time for a promotion. Like, what? I have to blow up my life in order to be good at my work? What?
Yeah. And I've actually witnessed that kind of stuff. So People think that movie is kind of a comedy or a farce, but I think if you've worked in that industry, it's a little, it gives you a little PTSD.
Yes. It's a very, I mean, I think they wrote it to be kind of comedic, but it's definitely a cautionary tale, I would say, for somebody that has ambitions. And if you can dare to think up your own picture of success that maybe doesn't have a corner office and all of the, you know, the reputation cachet of a Miranda Priestley in this movie, but whatever your picture looks like, if you have a picture, you can figure out how to get there. But it's just that most people won't even think of a picture, or they think that their picture is not possible because it doesn't look like anybody else's. And that makes me so sad.
Yeah. You know, the fun thing is in the work that I do is that anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really seen it, and I've helped people build it. And in my programs, especially in the foundations, but in both, the non-negotiable thing we always do is we make sure you have a clear vision. I get into numbers, systems, marketing, sales, all the business stuff, but we have to start at a very clear vision of what your business does, feels like, looks like, and what type of life it creates for you. Because a lot of times we're working so hard in service of our business. And actually, if you understand business fundamentals, you can build a business that actually works for you and gives you the life you want. I am living a life now that I would have never imagined years ago, but I'm definitely in this place now where I think, oh my God, I am living the dream life.
Yeah.
I work from home. I travel and speak when I get invited. I love doing that. But then the introvert in me gets to work from home and serve a lot of clients. I'm going to Europe this summer for 3.5 months.
Love it.
And I still get to run my programs and run my minimal programs and deliver for my clients, but also live my life. What other job could you do that in? You know, so I always feel like it is, please know it's totally possible to build a business that serves your life.
Yeah. And I think it starts with knowing what you want in your life. That was like one of the biggest, even when I left the corporate job to start my own business, I took with me a lot of that social conditioning, that corporate thinking, that employee thinking with me, and almost recreated a job for myself as a business. Yeah. And I think a lot of us do that. Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's understandable too. Like if you've gone through this, I want you to remove that shame and judgment from yourself, because the employee frame viewpoint is what you have, is what you grew up with. We were all taught to be good employees in a capitalist society. So it's not surprising to me that so many of us recreate a job in our first couple attempts in a business sometimes. But like what happened to me when I decided to be a digital nomad and I started to travel, like you said, was that I noticed, I think in my first couple weeks, that I was doing that same thing. I'm sitting at my desk for 10 to 12 hours a day, doing all of the work, not exploring. And at some point, my brain started yelling at me, what's the point of doing all this work in someone else's house if you're not even going to go out and explore? So slowly but surely, I started making dinner appointments and going out to see things. Still didn't quite break that pattern until a couple months later in Nashville, when it was still COVID shutdowns. It was 2021. And to get in to see some of these bigger places with the attendance limits that they had, you had to make an appointment. And if they only had one appointment while I was there, I had to take that appointment and make it work. And then I started to realize that like, oh, the work will fit in around my life if I prioritize my life and what I want from my life. I can find space to make the work happen. But if I never bother to make my life happen, the work will take over. And that was kind of the aha moment for me, that like, no, if I want to travel and see things, that has to be the priority, not the work. It was interesting to me.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I mean, I really love what I do now, and I love my work, and I'm very passionate about it, and I love my clients. And it was my partner who wanted to be in Europe, and I was the one who, ironically, who was really resistant. Because I'm like, no, I'm trying to get more speaking engagements. I feel like I need to be here and go to conferences. And, you know, and he said to me, what is the point of having your own business if you are stuck inside your office all day, even though your office is in our home? What is the point of that? And I was like, ooh, dude, all right.
You know how to hit where it hurts, man.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you sound like me to my clients. I was like, all right, book a ticket, fine. You know?
Love it.
And I was like, you're right.
You need people like that in your life, though. The people that, I call it a loving mirror, like they reflect the truth back at you. And if this is one of the things that you stand for, that you're violating your own principles, whether intentionally or unconsciously, right? Somebody that goes, but isn't this what you stand for? I love you, but there's a disconnect here for me. And then you go, damn it. Stop making uncomfortably true observations at me. I don't like it.
Absolutely. Look, we all have our things. We all have our things that we are working through. And that's why I love integrating mindset into business strategy. Because for me, I'm very clear that overworking is my fear flavor.
Yes.
I always believe I'm going to outwork my fear. I'm going to outwork self-doubt. I'm going to outwork my shame. I'm going to outrun it. I'm like, that's just how I'm wired, because I was wired. That's my survival mechanism as a kid, right? So I am wired to get on that treadmill and try to outrun anything that feels off, right? So it's great to go, oh, you're right. I need to be able to step away and be in Europe and just run my programs and not be doing all the extra things and live my life. That's going to be great. That's a great challenge for the way my mind is wired and all the unwiring and rewiring I'm doing. So we're all doing it. We're all doing the work all the time.
All the time. And I love that I wrote down fear flavor because I loved that. I identify with that hardcore because that is the way that I deal with anxiety and fear too. Like I immediately go into action mode. How can I solve this? What can I do? Who can I contact? Busy is my mode when I am dealing with uncomfortable feelings. And that actually happened not too long ago when my friends and I hosted an event together. And I realized we've got event staff taking care of everything. We've got the content down. All I'm doing is literally setting the container and holding the space and being available for people. And that was so uncomfortable. Oh, no. I felt like I needed to do something.
That's like an overworker's nightmare.
Yes, right? Just to sit there with a lot of extra space. And so we had a lot of productive conversations about that. Like I said, it's wonderful to have friends like this in your life that reflects that back to you. And she would ask me, so everything's taken care of? Yes. And you're still upset? And I was like, yes. What is it that would make you happy right now? Having things to do. She's like, there's nothing to do. I don't know what to tell you. It's all taken care of. You are doing enough.
That is my dream life. You're talking about my dream life. I always tell my clients, and I give this speech that I always say, my future self, like what I'm working towards and building, my future self is I want to be Rihanna.
Oh, that sounds great.
I want to be Rihanna. I want to show up to some big event, no sidekick, just being me, minimal dancing, onesie, maybe pregnant, wearing a loose, not even super sexy onesie, just showing up, being myself and making tons of money from all my side businesses because I showed up. That's his goals. I'm like, we can take a card from her book. Yeah. Especially as women entrepreneurs and go, oh, that's a female entrepreneur right there. She just showed up in millions of dollars. By the way, she doesn't get paid for that performance. The performance, they don't get paid to perform. They get their costs covered, but there's no fee. They make money from, if they're smart about how they leverage the commercials and the product placement. You can be clever. So your girl crushed it. She didn't invite a sidekick. She did her greatest hits. Everybody was wearing Fenty. There were commercials before and during all about Fenty products. Her whole performance was brilliant because she just shows up, makes everybody go wild, but it was all product placement because no stars actually get paid for that halftime show.
Oh, that's so brilliant. I love the fact that we're finally getting to a point in business where we can just point to examples like this and say, no, I mean, your argument about how it should be done and the way that I need to get to success is invalid. Look at Rihanna. I can do this a completely different way. We can find a different model for this that fits my needs. And if my needs aren't in alignment with yours as a business, that's great. Or as a client, that's great. that means that we're not a good fit. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if we're in alignment, we're going to make something beautiful together. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I love that.
It does all kind of come down to alignment. And I do think for all of you people who are like, what are they talking about? And get back to business strategy. The real secret is when you can align your business strategy with your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You have the ability to actually untangle the two when you need to and go, oh, wait, this is a strategy problem. And this, or no, this is a me problem. This is a mindset problem. This is my self-doubt or fear coming up. When you can do that, when you can separate the two, you have like Neo Matrix powers.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the ability to know when you need to work your strategy and when you need to work your mindset. But what happens is we all walk around intermeshed and entangled. Our beliefs and our thoughts and our feelings, our emotions and our past and our history all get tangled up in whatever strategy we're trying to work out on our business.
Oh,
and
yes.
So then we think we have the wrong strategy. And so we think we need the next new thing. Oh, that coach says they do this. I need that course. I need that program. I have to work with that coach now. Oh, this coach does this thing. And it's now this. This is the new algorithm. This is the new tool. This is the new hack. Because we haven't been able to untangle all of our self-doubt and our thoughts and our feelings about ourselves. We haven't been able to pull it apart from strategy. And so that's what I try to help people do is like, no. This is the strategy. This is what we're working. If it makes you uncomfortable, let's address the discomfort.
Yes. And if you're not working in your area of genius, your strengths, that's something to bring into the strategic picture as well. Because I know that is a wall that I've run into time and again, that only in the past couple of years I've managed to untangle, because there's a lot of societal head trash and capitalistic head trash that gets associated with the things that come naturally and instinctively to us. And I don't like it. I want to set it all on fire. But like one of the things that came to me as an ADHD person who's capable of hyper focus and, doing a whole bunch of stuff, an impossible workload in a short amount of time, was this idea of like, there's hard work and there's fun, and those two should be separate. They're not integrated. And what I've discovered about myself in the past couple years, especially in the travel, is that the more fun I have, the more creativity I am deliberately incorporating into my business, the better decisions I make, the more I show up for my people, the more I find stories that connect with them. Like I'm literally doing my best work when I'm having fun. And that is not something to be guilty about.
But you know why? Can I like geek out with you for a second?
Yes.
So that the audience knows why that actually is true?
Geek away.
So that is neurologically true. It's not just a weird Angie phenomenon, what you're saying.
Love it.
So here's the thing. There's 3 parts of your brain. We always talk about the amygdala, the reptilian brain, and then there's the middle brain, which is your emotions. And then there's the neocortex, the CEO, the one that can be creative and logical and rational, whatever. When you are reactionary, stressed, in whatever, in your feelings, your amygdala is activated. Or your limbic brain. Here's what people don't talk about is that when either of those brains are activated, which is almost all the time, especially if you're overworking, you actually can't access the neocortex. Ooh. Which is where rational, cognitive function, logical thinking, analytical, the ability to analyze and make decisions, you can't access that part of your brain. So what you just said to me is, for you, fun is what you do to calm down your nervous system, to calm down those other parts of your brain, and then you come up with better ideas. What you just said is actually neuroscience.
Love it.
So for you, it's fun. For me, I know that I'm so heady that I have to like work out. I have to like really do like 100 jumping. I have to like really get in my body and get out of my head to access. For some people, it's breath work, because breath work actually helps minimize the amygdala. It actually helps deflate the amygdala, and therefore you can access your neocortex. For you discovered, oh, isn't that interesting? When I'm having more fun, which by the way means I'm relaxed, I'm in pleasure, I'm enjoying myself. The parts of my brain that are typically reacting and feeling like I'm supposed to be doing stuff, those parts of my brain are relaxed, and therefore I suddenly can access great ideas, logical, analytical ways of putting them out into the world, new offers, a new way to solve a problem I couldn't solve before. What you
Yes.
literally said is like one of the foundational tools that I teach in mindset. Because I'm like, please understand that pleasure is a business strategy.
Yes.
Fun is a business strategy.
It's going to attract the right kind of people to you and repel the people, like we talked about with that book chapter. It's going to repel the people that don't get it. There are plenty of people that don't understand why I would want to drive bulldozers at a live event. They're not going to come to my live event. That's fantastic. But the people who went to that live event and drove bulldozers with me and spun around in a big 6-ton excavator because we could go, yep, I get it. I experienced that. Fun is part of my business.
Yeah, I think that would be really weirdly satisfying to do.
It is. It's so much fun. It was interesting because it just so happens that the first time I had that event called Eat, Play, Launch, that it was a bunch of women that showed up to Vegas with me in the desert, and we drove bulldozers and skid steers and 6-ton excavators, and it was fun. And I highly endorse this business. Dig it, Las Vegas. You can just rinse this out and go dig in the desert.
I've seen these places, and my partner showed it to me, and he's like, doesn't this look like so much fun? I was like, yeah,
it's so much fun. It's so much. It's air conditioned, and you've got these guys that are in your headset telling you what to do, so it's very interesting. And I think that was the interesting thing to me, that it comes with a lot of like fear. Like, I don't know what I'm doing behind this machine. I don't know if it's going to be uncomfortable. I don't know if I'm going to break stuff. And every single person that got behind the controls of one of those machines went like, I feel so damn powerful now. Like, I could do anything. Like, from driving something that hundreds of thousands of people have as a profession and don't see as anything out of the ordinary, but it was enough of a step out of the ordinary and so much fun for them that they were like, I feel like anything is possible now. Yay.
Yes, because you're actually teaching your brain that it's safe to step into the unordinary.
Yes.
So that when you do things that are completely unfamiliar, you're actually teaching your brain that it's safe. Mm-hmm. And so then that's why people say, I can do anything. So it's like, well, if I can do this crazy thing, I can send out some DMs or voice notes and sell my program.
Yes. And that was the whole intent too, to do something out of the ordinary, maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but kind of fun and exciting. And like, let's see if we can do this, to just shake up our comfort level and the way that we rationalize. I can do this. I can't do that. Here's my constraints. Here's how, like, no, just free all that up. Go dig in the dirt.
That's brilliant. You're like literally doing neuroscience to people and they don't even know it. That's so good.
And I didn't even know it. It was something that I did instinctively. So I think I'm gonna have to like study with you and study some neuroscience and understand why I'm impulsively drawn to do some of these things.
It's because you do intuitively get it. I know, like when I was younger, whenever I was like deeply uncomfortable or afraid of something, I was like, oh, if I'm going to grow as a person, I have to go do that thing now. So I'm not one of those like cheesy, like just say yes. Like, no, I knew when I had a visceral reaction to something, and a friend of mine in high school taught me this. I used to be really afraid of roller coasters, and this is where the story comes from. And we skipped school one day to go to Kings Island in Kentucky. That's a like theme park. And I was like, okay, cool. But I'm just like going to stand in line and hang on some of the roller coasters. I'm not going to ride the roller coasters with you guys. And he was like, why not? And I was like, cause I don't like roller coasters. He's like, why not? I was like, I don't like the way it feels. He's like, why not? And I was like, I really hate. He's like, are you scared of being upside down? And I was like, no, I'm a dancer. I'm not scared of being upside down, but like the drops, I don't like how it feels in my stomach. The drops scare me. He goes, great. I got something for you. Here's where we're going. And he grabbed my hand and forced me in line to do that ride that like just pulls you straight up. Oh, he was like, this is what we're doing. We're getting it out of the way. He was like, we're getting it out of the way. We're facing your fear and your discomfort. First ride we did in the morning. That was the first ride we did.
Oh, that'll wake you up.
On the way up, I was cursing him so loud. And then something happened when I didn't enjoy it, but you get off and you go, oh, I didn't die.
Yeah.
And that thing that I hate so much and that I'm so afraid of, it didn't kill me.
Yes.
And something about that was a really important life lesson for me, because when I moving forward in my life, and there's many, many, many stories where I had visceral no reactions to things. And I was like, ooh, girl, then there's something there that we got to unlock.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's why when people are like, how many lives have you lived? How many careers have you had? And I was like, well, it's been a lot, due to when something really feels like a no in my body, I know there's something there for me to explore. Even if it makes me really uncomfortable.
Oh, I'm such a big fan of everything that you said, because I started to see several years ago that fear is a sign that we're onto something exciting.
Yes, my coach says fear is a green light to your, to your dream life. Look at fear as your green light. That's a green tunnel. If you feel fear around something, that's your green light to go.
Mm-hmm. I have felt the most extreme fear of my entire life every time I'm about to make a huge leap forward. And of course, I couldn't see that until after I'd already done it. But if I felt the fear and did the thing anyway, I always had this huge breakthrough and this great success that just like, wouldn't have had it. Don't let the fear stop you. It's a green light. Love that. Yeah. Oh, man, I could keep ranting about this all day long, but I know we're getting close to time. Tell us all about where to learn more about you.
The easiest way is probably Instagram, because I have a funny Latina name. So on Instagram, you can find me at I am Don, which is DON, Celia, CELIA. And there you can find my freebies and my teachings and my funny content about business and life and infertility and like all the things, because I'm very open about all the things. So that's probably the easiest.
I love that. I'm going to make sure that they have a clickable link in the show notes. I think we have to do a part 2. I think we have to keep ranting about fear and all of these constructs.
I could talk to you forever. I don't know about if your audience loves it, but I could talk to you forever. So
who cares? It's my show. Sorry, spoiler alert, guys. Like, I put this show on because it's the show that I needed when I was, and I hope, of course, all of you listening get incredible value out of this. But if the only person who ever gets value out of this is me talking to so many interesting people, I'm fine with that. That's okay.
That's amazing. Good for you. Good for you.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show. I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you.
That's all for now. If you want to keep that kick-ass energy high, please take a minute to share this episode with someone that might need a high-octane dose of "you can do it." Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Permission to Kick-Ass podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you stream your podcasts. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and I'm here rooting for you. Thanks for listening, and let's go kick some ass.